Hey. So, this is kind of a little prologue to kind of a vlog, kind of a podcast. So, it's basically just us hanging out in the backyard talking cameras for an hour and figuring out which camera I should get rid of. If that sounds interesting to you, stick around. So, we have the Sony FX2, the Sony FX6, the Sony a7S III, and the Sony a7R5. And I'm going to get rid of one of them. And so, yeah, we just talk about the pros and cons for about an hour, just hanging out, chilling, talking cameras in the backyard for a bit. So, yeah, we talk about all the typical stuff, rolling shutter, how easy it is to use it as a webcam, if there's built-in NDs, the dynamic active stabilization in the FX2. And I kind of talk about my frustrations with Sony right now. I'm a little annoyed with them. So yeah, if that sounds fun, just hanging out in the backyard, chilling, talking cameras for an hour, then stick around. Thanks.
Hey, how's it going? This is John Evans.
Ron Torres.
All right, and we're here today to talk about... Let's flip this camera around. Oh my God. 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
There we go. We'll figure out that DJI. All these cameras. All right, so we got the Sony FX6 right here. We have the Sony a7S III. We have the Sony a7R5, the Sony FX2.
Then moving on to mine, the Sony FX30, the Sony ZV-E10, and then this old grandfather Sony FS5.
Nice. And the main point of the video today was going to be, I have 4 cameras. The FX2, the FX6, the a7R5, and the a7S III. And I don't think I need all 4 of them, so one of them has to go. But we thought we'd use this as an opportunity to talk about maybe the FX30 and how it compares and fits into this as well. So
yeah, it kind of goes back to like, hey, here's the spectrum of all these Sony cameras. What do you want to shoot with, and what are you shooting, and why would you choose one thing over the other, or keep one thing over the other?
Right. I think that sounds good. So let's go into some of the benefits of the FX6. So on the FX6, everyone knows it's got the built-in ND. It's got the top handle. I don't see that as a huge benefit anymore, because you can put a top handle even on something like the a7S III with a cage, right? So that's not a huge benefit. And if anything, it's actually a little bit of a con, because on the a7S III, you can put the handle on and you have a 3.5 millimeter input. With the FX6, you have the handle on and you just have the XLRs and you have the MI hot shoe there at the top, but you don't have a 3.5. So it's kind of lame. Yeah, that's kind of a downside. Another benefit of the FX6 is you can very easily put everything on V-mount, like your monitor, your external monitor and everything. You can do that with the a7S III and the FX3. In fact, a lot of people do that, but I don't like how you're not able to really put your monitor away unless you get something like Cineback, right?
Right.
So, which those are pretty cool. So then there's the a7R5 that I have, and the a7R5 is not really going anywhere because that's my landscape photography camera, so I'm going to keep that one. So now it's down to the FX2, the a7S III, and the FX6.
Yeah, maybe talk a little bit, John, about what you bought first. So technically, this is the newest camera, right?
Yeah, so this is the FX2 that I just bought this week on kind of an impulse, of course. As you can tell, I'm a little impulsive with buying this stuff. Which one did I buy
Clearly,
first?
we both are.
Yeah. So we have the a7S III that I bought first, and it's pretty sweet because it's got the 4K 120. It's got great low light with the dual base ISOs. And then I bought the a7R5, and that's great because it's the 61 megapixels, and it's a great landscape photography camera. And it's actually got some pretty sweet video specs. I don't usually use 8K. I don't know if you ever use 8K.
I haven't used 8K often. I have seen it done on a couple different projects. So I've seen, and this kind of goes back to like, even just going back to my camera lineup, but then also like what I've observed, right? So I've shot on an FX6 on multiple levels, and I've also been on feature sets that have used the FX6 technically as their second unit, even with an RE. And so I've seen that kind of used on like larger scales productions. I chose the FX30 because it's kind of at the time it was the younger brother to the FX3, which that's like, if you look at this whole landscape, that's the other thing is realizing there's still a part and piece missing, which is the FX3, which would probably be right dead center here.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So what we're, when we're talking about, in a way, we're looking at this history of Sony, and there's kind of been two approaches that Sony has done. And then recently they've been trying to find the blurring of both, which is they always, this is the FS5. This came out, 2015, 16, something like that. Mm-hmm. This was the first, this along with the FX9 or the FS9 or FS7, whatever that was.
Mm-hmm. FS7, yeah.
Yeah, where the first kind of of these cinema builds to where they were not a DSLR, right? Mm-hmm. This was kind of that movement of trying to find stuff that was competing with Red, competing with Blackmagic in terms of ergonomics, right?
Is it the Mark II of the FS5 or is it the Mark I?
This is the Mark I, so this is literally the first one of that lineup.
And there was
love this. I actually have traveled across the country shooting for this.
Right.
So I have a deep understanding of this camera system.
Yeah. And I think the only difference between the Mark I and the Mark II, is it something to do with the built-in ND and it trying not to back focus with the Mark II, or is there other differences?
Bit of that. There was a lot of issues with Video City for a while with the FX6 and certain outputs to certain
with the FS5.
FS5 and kind of getting the maximum image quality of what was in the camera. Mm-hmm. And so there was firmware updates from that, which then led to the FX6. Now the thing about it, and it goes back to what type of shooter you are, right? So, and John kind of alludes to this, or you alluded to this just by saying, "Hey, you want to keep this, right?" Because
A7R5.
You do a lot of photography.
I do like the landscape photography.
You're a landscape photographer as much as you are a filmmaker videographer. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what's happened is as those two jobs have merged into one job, or as those two interests have merged into one interest, because it used to be of course, filmmakers and photographers have always been similar, but there's been tracks that people, if somebody wanted to become a DP, they kind of had to decide to become a DP going into, filmmaking.
Right.
Or they could decide to kind of just be a true photographer, right? Mm-hmm. And it used to be where those lines were set, and so you would have two camera systems that were just completely two different lineups and two different customer bases.
Right.
Starting with the real player that kind of broke the door open was Canon initially with the 7D, is this idea of the DSLR videographer.
Oh, the 5D Mark II?
Yeah, well, even the 7D, I would say, was the first camera system that, because you used to have camcorders that were for videographers and photography cameras, and then you came this DSLR movement of a photography camera that had good video capabilities started showing up, right? And so you had people that grew up on that system and grew up on those ergonomics of a camera, a photography camera body that had functional services for videography.
Right. Well, let me ask you. I think I know which way I'm leaning. FX2, A7S3, FX6. If you had to get rid of one, which one would you get rid of?
Well, and this goes back to we haven't really shot with this yet, so we don't quite know what we're looking at. But what I'll say is this, and this goes back to where I shoot, right? So if it was me in my space, in the percentages of things I do, I am, let's say, 20% a photographer, 80% a videographer. And so I'm looking for the camera system that blends the best in terms of a major unit, a second unit, and then putting it into post-production, merging the camera systems.
Right.
And because all of these have the Cinema Line codec, I would go with the Cinema Line codec, the Cinema EL codec, right?
Yeah.
That color system-wise matches most consistently. So I would be making that choice.
Yeah.
But I believe this has that, right?
So it's got S-Cinetone, it's got S-Log3, so they match really closely. When it came out, everyone's like, it matches with basically with the FX6. You can do a hue rotate
Right.
of +1 to make it match almost exactly the FX6.
Right.
So the whole color argument that I see kind of going through YouTube of like, oh, the FX2, the colors match so much better. It's like the A7S3 matched really well. Like they did. What was that? Indie Mogul did a video where it's matching with the Venice,
Well, and
like
if you-
almost flawlessly.
And this goes back to the ergonomics. Clearly, what happened is Sony decided, hey, we have this camera. I would say that these two cameras are probably as close to twins as you could imagine, with essentially the specs. And this is going to be kind of looking ahead to the future of Sony.
Right.
It will be interesting to see if this type of camera that looks like a photography camera will go away more toward these. And I think that's what the FX was the biggest test.
Right.
Was saying, hey, are we going to eventually take these out of the playing field, and so a photography camera will look like this? Right? Because we will inherently know that a photographer is a videographer and they're the same person.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because one of the big benefits of the FX line is supposed to be overheating in the fan.
Right.
But I had my A7S3 out and I wanted to do an overheat test in the sun. It was it was 85 degrees and right in direct sunlight, right? Because that apparently affects it a lot. And it was over 25 minutes before I got bored. And same with the A7R5, no overheat warning. So where I shoot mostly narrative stuff, it's going to be not a huge issue for me to have a fan. But if I was using the FX6 to film like a documentary, which we have talked about shooting that mini doc, right? A fan would probably be nice if you're standing out in the sun and you can't control
that's
anything.
where it gets really interesting, right? The question, you can look at all the specs, right? But I feel the overall question is, what do you shoot and what are the problems you run into when you're shooting? And like you said, when you're shooting narrative, more often than not, you are cutting more fast. Right? If you're shooting, let's go back to like what you kind of alluded to when we were talking about what the FX2 might be good for, right? You were alluding to, it might be my perfect podcast camera.
It does
because this would be when I would be running the longest
Yep.
on one single take and not wanting something to kind of overheat and shooting 3 hours at a time, right?
I should mention my A7R5 has actually been working really well as my webcam, but I do want to just be able to take it, just have it out so I can shoot a macro photo whenever I want, and I have to take my podcast setup down. And the FX2, so the A7R5 works well for a podcast cam.
Right.
If you're going to be recording internally and streaming and charging like via USB-C,
Right.
the alpha cameras are not going to do as well as something like the FX2.
Right. And this kind of goes back to like, so Sony came out with the FX3, which is this middle camera here. The FX3, one of the limiting things, and this is what happens, is it wasn't filmmakers that were complaining about the FX malt line. It was people that did photography.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe that's the thing to talk about is the photo specs of the FX2. Because I think that's what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
Whereas they're trying to boost the photo effects or the photo tech specs to be as close to these as they could get.
So the FX2, it's essentially an A7 IV with a fan and a cool viewfinder. And so I had the A7 IV, right? And one big reason that I got rid of it is because one of the shots, when I was doing a documentary about my mom, one of the shots that got ruined was because when I was zooming in, I really got the jello from the rolling shutter. And I was like, ugh, this like makes me dizzy.
Right.
And I just didn't want the rolling shutter anymore. So how do you feel about rolling shutter? I do feel maybe there's something about technique. Can you hold this?
Yeah.
With the A7 IV shot where I was trying to zoom in on my sister, when I zoom in, I have to like reach around and then almost tilt the camera and then zoom in. And so when you have like the A7 IV or the FX2, the jello is going to get even worse.
Right.
But with the A7S III, you have the quick rolling shutter, but I don't know how much that saves you. Like, I feel like there's probably I have to practice better zooming technique. So maybe rolling shutter shouldn't matter so much. I just have to work on my Zooming technique. What do you think?
Well, and you bring up an interesting point, because when I look at like what you're doing, right, when you're holding this camera, right, and this goes back to this system that you built up right here, right? So, when you're deciding on the type of things you're shooting, I do a lot of like social ad, quick insert 15-second pieces for my work, right? And so just recently, and even in the sense that I'm also shooting vertically a lot right now, right? So like, if you were in that scenario, right, with this camera, you would be having to figure out the vertical way of getting this whole rig mastered, right?
Yeah.
And that becomes like arduous, right?
I mean, the good thing about the A7S III is you could strip that whole thing down to just the tiny little alpha body and totally easily.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back
side.
to like, we were just talking about ergonomics with this, right? So like, there's an attempt made with this camera to say, hey, maybe you don't need this rig caged out. Maybe this could be better. But then you notice things like this from a photographer perspective for the most part, right? Like that were bothering you. So again, they still didn't have
the joystick on top. I think is a mistake. I think like Philip Bloom said, it should be down here.
Right.
But other things are arguable. You said you're actually kind of used to using your thumb.
Thumb up and that goes back to like, because I'm shooting. If you notice, it's funny. It's the same thing. Right.
Where's the joystick on the FX30s in the same spot?
Yeah. Okay. So I've been used to.
Right.
And I rarely am using my joystick.
Right.
You sound like in what you're shooting.
Yeah.
Are using your joystick quite a bit.
Yep, definitely.
Right. And so it goes, it's funny because, and this shows you the challenge that Sony has, is they're trying to answer questions for a lot of different shooters, have a lot of different habits and patterns in their workflow.
Well, so how do you feel about rolling shutter? I guess is one big question for the FX2.
So one thing I noticed shooting actually with my FX30 just 2 shoots ago, I was doing a fast panning. I was literally doing this shot. I was here walking like this, trying to pan across a row of stuff. Right. And it was just then that I realized I had to change like the pace of my walk to slower because of rolling shutter. Right. And so you have to like, it still goes back to the shots that you're doing. Right. And that even goes back to like, even with a narrative, right? Are you doing talking head character dramas or family oriented comedies? Right. You're more than likely not doing a rolling shutter. You're not putting yourself in rolling shutter jeopardy.
Right. Yeah. Most of the time you're on a tripod. Or
you're on a tripod. You're locked off. You're building.
Yeah.
You're building more simple camera movement pieces. Right. If you're shooting horror or an action, or sci-fi or something that would like inherently have instances of rolling shutter complications. Right. For logic of a sequence or a montage, you might have to be thinking about that more. And you might have to be thinking, like, hey, I'm never going to be able to shoot that like fight scene the way I want because I'm never capturing the moment as in focus as I need to. Right. And so that goes back to like, I guess the question would be throw back at you. Of if you know what you're shooting, right. And this is a question for everyone. When you're talking about camera systems, you have to be thinking about what you're actually shooting and want to be making with it, right?
Well, I think it's tough with me wanting to start kind of a video production business for the film festival.
Right.
With any business around town, maybe for that commercial, if it's a boxing gym, we have a few of those around town. Maybe you do want to do the YouTube boxing gym quick pans, right? So your FX2 is almost useless. So it should be, I think, it should not be your only cinema camera for something like a production house. I think you need something to pair with it with faster rolling shutter. So
again, and that goes back to like he knows this. Before I was shooting the YouTube kind of like video, I was shooting in the fitness and health industry, which was essentially shooting action stuff.
Oh,
right?
okay, yeah.
So
Yeah.
like it was a completely different shoot scenario,
Right.
with a different shoot client, which would have had way more. We had way more moments of talking about rolling shutter.
Yeah.
When we were talking about those things, which goes back to like some of these cameras became more where you lean toward.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you kind of built that line,
Yeah.
right? So like, yeah, I do think like when you're talking about the film festival, when you're talking about, I mean, here's what's funny. Clearly, we have an amazing Sony rental house,
Yeah.
probably in town,
Yep.
east regionally.
If
We
you're-
would,
yeah.
if you with simply our powers combined,
Right.
we could probably provide the most consistent Sony rental house for
Yeah.
anyone, even with losing one of these camera systems, right?
Yeah, if you're in East Idaho and you need to rent a Sony camera, maybe look us up.
Yeah, talk to us because this is pretty much the go-to team now for that. If you really, I would be very interested to see who has more Sony
Right.
cameras than us right now.
So,
But
so I do have so the rolling shutter for the FX2. It's an issue to take into account, and I do hate it. But as a B cam, it's not as much of an issue because my A cam, as long as it has good rolling shutter,
right,
then we're good. So between B cam then FX2 and A7S3 for B cam.
yep,
A7S3 better rolling shutter. You get 4K 120 without a crop.
Right.
And you have audio in your 4K 120. I don't
Right.
think you can do it all intra, but you can still get audio with 4K 120.
Right.
With the FX6, you don't actually get audio with your 4K 120, but it'll still do 4K 120, and it's actually really easy with the S&Q button to just be able to push a button,
Right.
hop into 120, and come back. And I
do think in general, if I was going to say, if we're talking about this or this,
Yeah.
right, my argument would always be that this camera system in the meat and potatoes, in the trenches, longer form content of a professional quality standard, and this even goes back to, and I know this is like a stupid thing, so just know this is a stupid thing, but it is a real thing, right? The optics of that, you're shooting a real project
Yeah.
of real note
Right.
to a producing investor
Yep.
or a crew
Yep.
or a set, you will feel like a real production with this cinema camera.
It's annoying that a marketing manager would be more impressed with you showing up with the FX6 all built out like this.
It would, but it's absolutely.
But it's true.
Every business-oriented person will think that they've made their investment wiser
Yeah.
because you're the team that has this level of gear.
Right.
Right. So that is a thing to know.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be a factor, but is a factor in some regards. The more you're trying to play to a certain level of professional standard,
Yeah.
where there is, say again, you are wanting to shoot that epic action movie, and you are getting actual investors,
Yeah.
and they're seeing you come with, as good as this setup is,
Yeah.
they're looking at you. Are you sure that's the like you literally
Right.
have to fight to say
Yeah.
that you're going to get as good a quality
Yeah.
of image, right?
Yeah. And one fix I will say for the FX6, you can't get audio with 4K 120, but I do like to add the Zoom F3 here
Yep.
and get audio external for 32-bit float, and then you just record that externally, and you're recording audio while you're doing your 120. You do have to remember to hit a couple different buttons to record, right? Boop and record on your camera and record on your. So that's a real risk if you're filming something 4K 120 or in the action maybe,
Right.
And it'll slow you down to have to hit two buttons, and you might forget your audio.
Right, but that goes back to like you're probably shooting something with a crew of 10 or 12 people with
Yeah.
an AC,
Yeah.
and you're doing a real kind of slate.
Right.
And so like
But if it's documentary or something, I
Right.
guess it's more of a risk.
Right.
But again, the risk is getting smaller and smaller and smaller because it's like, what if I forget to hit the button and and I needed audio for this 4K 120, and it's just kind of like really slim chances that all these things are going to line up where
Yep.
you're going to forget to hit the record button, and also it's going to be something where you needed that.
and like
4K
no other
120
time
audio.
we can kind of allude to this because we haven't talked about this, but literally just to yesterday or so, Adobe did like all their announcement of. I mean, we are living in a time of post production that we've never lived in.
It's crazy.
It's crazy right now to where the true term fix it in post is becoming a very crazy reality
Yeah.
on so many different levels, even within the audio space, right?
Right.
And so, like, you have to kind of, so no, again, some of these things could happen, but you have a lot of fail safes to help protect your project.
Yeah.
As long as you're aware of where the problems are, right? It's better to be aware
Yeah.
of the two-button issue,
Yeah.
right? It's better to be aware of the rolling shutter issue.
Right.
It's better to be aware of all this stuff,
Yeah.
and really talk this out,
Yeah.
so that you decide where you go.
Yeah.
I do think more talking about the type of shooter you are,
Yeah.
what I know you're doing.
Yeah.
I think you're in a real. The next step for you, while you still technically have this body here,
Right.
is to do some cross comparison tests with these two cameras.
We're gonna do that today,
and
bro.
working.
Me and you.
Yeah.
So one thing that it'll come down to. So I think I'm gonna keep the FX6. So another thing that really bugs me on the FX6 is the white balance tool. Where on the A7S III, and this is something Gerald Adon talked about in his video, and that's where I first started getting annoyed when I had the FX6, is you can now with the update actually to the A7S III, you can make the white balance toolbox so small, essentially just zooming into your picture, and then your actor, your talent, or whatever can hold up your gray card, and you do a custom white balance, and you can move it anywhere around the frame essentially to get your custom white balance. With the FX6, you have to have, I think, 60% of the frame filled with your white card, and so essentially you're going to have to, if you're not on a zoom and your subject's a little further away, you have to take your camera off the tripod and go over there and white balance and come on back. So that's something they can fix in firmware, and I'm mad at Sony for not fixing that.
Right.
But it is something you can deal with, and I've mostly just been setting my white balance manually now because of that headache.
And this goes right back to the conversations with shooting, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm more of I'm setting things to a certain color temperature Kelvin, and that's my white balance game, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of knowing, I'm reading my light meters and saying, hey, I'm going to be at 44,000,
right?
And this is what we're going to do, right?
Yeah.
But it is interesting because it goes back to, I think, really, and I'm calling you out a little bit,
okay,
right? Not in a bad way, but you've barely gotten this.
Yes.
And so you're barely shooting with this.
Right.
Right? Like you've touched this, but you really haven't shot a project with it.
I've built it out, though.
You've barely shot this.
Yes,
right? There's nothing that's really been done with this.
Right.
But you have lived with this camera. You've shot a full feature film in this camera, right?
No, actually I shot on the feature film was on the FX6.
Oh, okay, got it.
So that was a 10-day feature length
but
film.
It was a rental that you did for it, and it wasn't like this full tricked out rig, or was it?
No, it was I didn't have the V mount and stuff, but it was the FX6. So I'm familiar with the FX6, and for the A7S III, I shot essentially my mom documentary.
Got it.
It was the A7 III, but in terms of the hybrid camera, I've also shot on that.
But in terms of hours in, how much more are you this to this then?
It's probably about equal. I'm thinking, because
okay.
we had the mom doc and we had my feature
So
film.
I thought that this had been your bread and butter for most projects. So I was going to say, that happens, right?
Yeah.
That happens a lot,
right?
Where it's just that your habits are built off of this ergonomics and this flow of work,
right?
And then it's remembering that you're disrupting that by buying the new camera system.
Well, it's just it's so usable on the alpha cameras to set your white balance and to have your ISO wheel and you have your aperture wheel and your shutter, and everything is just so easy. And you have your function menu, right? Everyone's all excited about the big 6 menu and.
Right.
In here, and I'm like, I don't care. I have the function menu. Like I've just been using the function button.
Right.
And I mean, the big 6, I guess it's cool, but it wasn't a big deal to me. So let's put this over here. So we're keeping the FX6 as the A cam. So we're down to A7S III, FX2 for B cam.
Right.
And
this goes back to again, the sleeping giant that would be right here, right, would be an FX3. Right? Because could this be where you eventually would go to an FX3 because you found dissatisfaction? If there, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. This is your test of seeing if you like any of the things that connect to this FX line.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to buy an FX3 because it's over $4,000 now, and
exactly.
And it's a 5-year-old camera, and I'm mad about it, so I'm not I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
And I have basically an FX3 in the A7S III.
Yep.
And the only difference is the fan, but I haven't had it for a B cam. I doubt I'm going to have any overheating issues unless I'm doing something like I have a 3-camera setup for the podcast if I start interviewing people in person.
Right.
But that's like if I do that, you know.
Well, that just goes back to what shooter you're going to be, right? And
Yeah.
and we don't know, right? You have your instincts, right? And that goes back to trust your instincts of what you're going to shoot next,
Right.
right? If that is a 20, an under 50%
Yep.
reality,
Right.
I mean, there's a local filmmaker here who just shot like a big He's all about doing these big podcast setups. He just did something at the Real Theater and
Really?
did like a full long form conversation with
Who is this?
Hondo.
with Hondo, huh?
It was with Hondo, but I can't remember his name. Something. But his whole business model is off of podcast creation. So like he might be the person that is going like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm doing all these setups and it's just me and I'm just going to let them roll.
I need to be able
and
to
I have
internal.
trust.
Well,
Yeah.
looking at internal recording for the A7S III, even without the battery grip, it was going for 90 minutes. But if you're doing 3 hours, even with the grip and you're charging, I would
Right.
get a little uncomfortable using that for a 3-hour podcast.
Yep.
With the grip and everything.
But that goes back to like, there's a point where you're deciding that's like what you're making.
Yeah.
Right.
Something I want to demonstrate here, if you want to pick up the FX2 here, and we'll get some footage.
Yeah. Does it got a card in it?
It does. I put a card in there already,
Oh, cool.
so we're good. And the battery's charged. Look at me. So we'll talk maybe about that zoom lens later. The 16 to 35 zoom PZ, the power zoom. Oh, hello there. So
have to-
let's put on the
Sorry,
dynamic active on here because that's going to be the big thing. Function button, boom, and it's already on dynamic active. So if you want to record and go just back and forth that way, we'll use that footage. Just do a walking shot of
Of just walking through the space.
let's have you actually here. Let's have you come this way,
Okay.
and I'll fall and we'll have you walk backwards.
Oh yeah.
Are you recording?
Interesting.
Oh, because I have you should hit OK,
Okay.
and then on the A7S III it didn't do that where you're still, or actually it was the FX6. So do we have to take? Is it recording or do you have to take it off of simultaneous recording?
I have to take it off of simultaneous.
Okay, then let's go into menu. We'll come over here. I can probably. All right, we figured out you have to have auto switch turned on in the camera, and then you can leave it on simultaneous recording even if you have one card in there.
Right.
So anyways, are we ready to walk back? And let's just do backwards and forwards to test it. Let's do it.
Oop. Why is my
Where are you going?
auto not doing?
All right, let's just walk backward and like straight back.
Straight back. Yeah.
Straight back. Yeah, let's do it. And here's the test. All right, and then let's go this way.
Yep.
All right. So I tested it earlier, and we'll put the footage up here. You can hit stop on that. And it was amazing. It was great compared to like we'll test the A7S III IBIS here now, which we do have some added weight, which is a good thing for stabilization.
Right.
Here you go. There's a card in there as well. It's a little heavy. I love the setup, so it's going to be hard to give up if I get rid of the A7S III, but I like the big monitor. I like the hand grip. I like the battery grip and everything.
How do I darken you up?
Aperture is aft for me. So this guy, where's your wheel?
Here?
The scroll wheel.
There we are. There? There.
Yeah, whatever looks good. Let's get in the grass again. Keep the terrain consistent.
Should this be on?
Only if you want to monitor. But you have the nice thing about this is you can use your EVF, but you do have the EVF on the FX2 as well, so I guess that's, for our comparison, that's not useful.
This is so funny. I keep hitting a button. So this shows you how different, even like
Using the FX30 and
just our different like approaches towards shooting.
Yeah.
Because this like feels like
Get out of here.
incredibly not the ergonomics I'm used to anymore because I've been shooting on the FX30 so much.
For a handheld thing, is it too heavy?
Yeah.
Okay. That's something to think about too, because maybe I'll have to do the comparison without the monitor and stuff too.
Right.
Okay.
Ready?
Are you? Oh, let's make sure you have which steady shot do you have on there? Function, and then standard. So we want to go to active.
Okay.
And then okay. All right.
Okay.
So this is just active.
This is just active.
On the A7S III. Let's go. Backwards.
Okay. Backwards.
And forwards. All right, you can hit stop.
Yep.
Just from looking at the screens, can you see a big difference?
A little bit, but I also go back to like, and this just is like, again, that's not a tricked out system. And so it goes back to like, how much of a tricked out system are you going to make with that eventually?
Yeah, yeah.
But I felt the weight. And so it was harder for me to manage my headspace, framing, and also,
That's
I don't know, and this goes back to like you have this nice big monitor, but if I was using this monitor, this monitor felt darker.
It is.
So it was harder for me to like.
Oh well, the monitor actually on the.
So are these the same? That's the question. I don't know what the monitor specs.
The monitor is actually worse on the FX2. It's just
that's
1
weird,
million.
and I don't know if it was just the weight, the camera weight side of it.
Yeah.
But like I can feel like I can. If you're hearing me, I'm literally huffing and puffing more, just from like one setup.
Yeah, well, that's my
With
bad
that
for
system, right?
building that badass B cam out like that.
And that goes back to like, you're a big buff dude. You're a camera. You look like a camera op, right? I look like a actor that's playing a camera op sometimes.
I actually
Where's your power off on
up here, which I like the power off. This is a small thing. I like it much better on the alpha cameras. I actually think on the FX2 that it's going the wrong way. I want to power off by going left to right, but you have to go from right to left to power on. You have to go from right to left.
Well, it's funny you say that. So I've had issues where I have left it on, not realizing it.
Right.
Because again, if you've shot with these long enough, you start getting into the habit of what on and off is.
There's also just something about intuitive. Maybe it's an English speaking thing, but we just go beginning is left and we go from left to right, I guess.
Right.
And so it's just kind of non-intuitive to me to have to go to the left to turn it on. It's a small thing, but
it's a small thing. But I mean, believe me, you'll get pissed if you've overheated a battery, because it's been in the case, right?
Yeah.
So it becomes issues. I have to use the restroom. Real quick.
Pause.
That you were. That's why I kept going.
No, but you're good. So do you want to do one more test? Do you want to throw the FX6 on your shoulder and we'll show what it's like to have no IBIS on the FX6?
Yeah. Well, and that kind of goes back to let's see what no IBIS does, and then also just know what you're like. Even in the sense of just like this goes back to like color matching and stuff. Like, what image out of the box or can do you gravitate toward? I will probably need
power's right there for you.
Right, and then I'll probably be using. I can still probably see it with this, or is this actually working?
This is it's
USB. It didn't need a battery. Got it.
USB-C. So I like that little setup.
Where's my power at?
Oh, sorry, monitor's right there.
Perfect.
I like that 7-inch monitor right in my face. That's what I like. I had on my my narrative feature that I did it without a monitor with the FX6, and
I'm not seeing it.
Didn't work well.
This isn't clicking on yet. What do I need?
Oh, darn it. It's doing that again. Sometimes it needs to be. Is it saying Viltrox yet?
Nope, not yet. Now it is. Now it is.
Okay, sweet.
There.
Yeah, I did my narrative feature.
No signal. Nope, signal.
I was going to say, it's lying.
It's there.
Yeah. I did my narrative feature on the FX6 without a monitor, and there's so many shots coming out of that with that I didn't grab focus.
Are you set on variable ND yet?
No.
There you are.
I think it's probably on manual, but I don't know if you want it. Just for this shot, it probably doesn't matter.
There you go. Oh, that looks... So already, I'm missing my FX6 because I love this. I love this.
Right on the
Yeah.
shoulder with a giant monitor right there. It might hurt
Right.
your neck a little bit after a while.
Right.
You can, but you can figure out a way to lower the monitor.
I'm
if you
locking
need to.
with this, right? Yep. There.
Yep.
Locked. Okay.
All right, you ready to go backwards?
Yep.
All right, let's go.
Already feel easier. Now, again, I don't know if it's necessarily steadier,
Yeah,
but
let's
like
go
from
that
an
way.
op level, I feel immersed in my frame,
Right.
and I feel able to count for my balance, and I kind of feel,
Did you record?
yes,
Okay, you can hit stop.
yep. I feel the movie, I guess. Like, that's the funny thing about this. So, like, and I don't know if that big monitor was on or if that was on rails too.
It'd give you the
Like,
same
I mean,
vibes.
because we're not talking about like what this does, right? Having this rail system.
Right.
Like, I'm, yes, fatigued, but I'm not fatigued in the way that felt like I'm not going to handle it
Right.
by just being in a true setup like that feels
Yeah.
like real. I mean, this was the bread and butter shooting that I did in BBCom all the time.
Yeah.
So I know how to like
Yeah.
counterbalance
Yeah.
my body,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So this, I think that there is it's interesting to think about when you talk about IBIS and you talk about like these systems.
Uh-huh.
You aren't talking about what kind of op you are,
Uh-huh.
right? So again, I would probably, or I know I'd love this system
got good
as like my
lighting.
main cinema camera
Right.
because this is the type of op.
Yeah.
If I was going for the big boy kind of shooting,
Yeah, yeah.
handheld,
Right.
this is I'm going to go full setup like this.
Yeah.
I'm not, or I'm going to go, I guess I'm like all or nothing,
Uh-huh.
where it's like, it's
tiny or
this,
big. Yeah.
this kind of full rig
Right.
with like the handles and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm giving it to an AC, right? And
Yeah.
I'm doing all this stuff and it's a crew of 30.
You're right.
Or I'm like a one-man band and I want nothing.
Yeah.
I don't want that in between
Right.
weight,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's where like the A7 rig,
Yeah.
at least on a rig level, was like harder
bit
for
much,
me.
yeah.
And I felt probably like, I think if you look at the footage,
Yeah.
because like you're recording the IBIS, but remember that I'm the one shooting it.
Oh, right.
And I'm probably less inclined to shoot the best material
Uh-huh.
with the A7 rig, the way it's set up.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So-
could keep it small though. That's the
Right.
thing, is I could shrink it down. And if I shrunk it down, it would
And
essentially
I
be
think you're more used to this setup. I think you're more inclined to be able to shoot steadier on this and are more probably seasoned in practice to shoot steady on
and
this.
I could, like, I guess that I could make the argument that I could shrink the A7S III down to the same size as the FX2, and then what am I losing at that point? The fan, I guess, and if I get rid of the A7S III, I will have, and I get the FX2, I'll have the fan, but I'll have the bad rolling shutter. But if I need to get rid of rolling shutter, I can just rely on my A-cam.
Right.
So what's the A7S III giving me that I don't already have in the FX6? So I guess I'm leaning toward getting rid of my A7S III now.
I think it's a potential. I think it's worth getting into some real world practice, depending on your timeline,
Yeah.
to truly see
Right.
if you're in that scenario where the fan matters
Right.
enough to you.
Right. Well, that's
Right.
another thing. Like, so for the red carpet at the film festival, right?
Right.
Sparkle Bandits Film Festival.
Right.
Do I want to bring the FX6 and have it all decked out like this? I mean, it would look cool. Maybe I should do that. And it can just plug in to mains power down there, right?
Well, and this kind of goes back. So, like, let's think about this. So, if it's the Spark of Madness Film Festival, we're shooting a bunch of content, right? Maybe we are doing our version, of a doc series show, and we are doing long interview, podcasty setup conversations with filmmakers
Right.
on top of red carpet
Yeah.
B-roll, right?
Sure.
So, again, fan could matter.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, rolling shoulder could matter because it's more run and gun.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, again, there's like these weird games. Here's where like you have a safety net, right? If it's a fan setup, I have a fan in my FX30.
FX30. So if
This
we're talking
isn't
about
being
combining
sold.
powers, yeah.
Yeah, if we're talking about combining powers,
Yeah.
which also goes back to like, and that would sound so funny, but like, it may be not losing an FX2, it may be Ron gaining an FX2 because I think it was showing me,
Here, stupid
examples
bugs.
of me is saying like probably I will invest in an FX2 down the line, even if you went with this,
Right.
because clearly with my shooting habits,
Right.
that might actually be the thing I want next,
Yeah.
even more than an FX3,
Yeah.
right?
Something.
Especially because if you have this as the baby,
Right. Here, hold that FX2. Something I wanted to mention. That eyepiece is pokey. It pokes my eyes. Does it poke you when you put it up there? I don't know if you're left or right. It looks like you can flip it around depending on which eye is dominant.
Oh, you can go like this
I think
With
you
it?
have to plop it off and then,
and then redo it.
yeah.
Oop.
I was going to be impressed if you could do that in one try with one hand.
I know, almost.
Almost there.
Hey,
Nice, nice. Get out of here, wasps. If you haven't seen Ryan George's video on why wasps are so angry in the fall,
it doesn't feel pokey, but I might not be going all the way in with it. I'm not going tight. I'm kind of letting it loose.
so you're it looks like right eye dominant then, right? I guess I'm left. I don't know if that matters too much. It keeps
Why is
my.
this so sticky?
I saw Philip Bloom say when he shoots, I think right eye dominant too. So his nose, like yours, is to the side of the camera,
Right.
And he can smell with the smells
smoke.
coming out of the
actually
vent
can
right
smell
there.
it.
Yeah, can you? It's
Yeah.
kind of funny. It's
That's
like,
funny.
And I'm like, that is kind of a. Is that a factor? It kind of is. I don't like the smell.
I mean,
but
it goes back to
it's not a big.
what are the things, a year from now, 2 years from now. That's why you always see. I mean, and this is a great camera example of this. That there was a lot of hate on the FX6 when it first came out.
Yep.
A lot of hate, but years have shown
Yeah.
people really end up liking going back to this camera,
Yeah. Some
especially if they own the FX3.
Matty Hipoya, just after I bought this from an Instagrammer in Utah, because Utah has a bunch of influencers too for
Right.
some reason. Matty Hipoya came out with his video on this is the cinema camera you need. So it's coming back into fashion, and I too is like I found some workarounds for the audio for 4K 120. I have my external audio, the white
Right.
balance tool. I just set it manually. So it's like that's fine. So there's some workarounds. The lack of IBIS is important, and that's why I think you do need a B cam. But again, I think that's why I'm starting to lean toward FX2 for B cam is because what I can't get done with the FX6, I can get done with the FX2 because of the improved IBIS. And I'm
So,
not,
and this just goes back to we're gonna go full circle.
'Kay.
Because when you first started this,
Yeah.
you said, "There's no way I'm getting rid of this camera."
A7R5 is here to stay.
So, what's the thing about the A7R5 that none of these have?
Yeah, it's I do big metal prints of my landscape photos and up to 3 feet wide, and so if you can't really get that with the FX2. You can print with the FX2 because it's 33 megapixels, right? But not if you want 300 dots per inch. You can't print up to 3 feet wide with a close viewing distance.
So again, such a specific thing,
Yeah.
but a great specific thing, because it's great to know. He knows that, right? So he knows with all the other things that maybe would be not, where this would probably be the one that would go.
Yeah,
Right?
It's like that's my landscape.
That's your landscape photographer thing.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what's so fascinating is, if there's anything this review has shown you, it's know your niche.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Like know the content you want to make and you would make every day and be completely happy with.
Right.
Because more than likely there's a camera that's perfect for that.
Yeah.
And you dial to that.
Get out of here,
Right?
bugs.
And then you build the rest of the line to support the thing you're dialed to.
Yep. That bug's gonna get you.
It's gonna get me, but it's all right.
The thing I'd like to say, even though I'm starting to lean toward FX2, is compared to the competition, I do feel like Sony knows that they have kind of a hold on their users because E-mount is so awesome. I love all the lenses I have here, the 35
Right.
to 150, this 10 millimeter Lala. They have so many cool lenses. So they have almost a corner on the market in video where so many customers are demanding Sony and the FX stuff. I feel like they're kind of taking advantage, and they're like, oh, just put the A7 IV sensor in an FX body, and they're charging almost $3,000 for it now.
Right.
Where you can look at the competition, and you can tell that the competition is out there like trying to give you value, and Sony, I feel like, is taking advantage. And as a Sony user, I don't like it. I don't appreciate
but that
it.
goes back to, they only got the advantage when they started listening to us.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
That's what always happens, and this is just a 10 years down the road when
Yeah.
you become truly Sony guys, right?
Yeah.
Or
'Cause I
truly
started-
Blackmagic guys, or
Right,
truly
or
Canon
whatever.
guys.
Yeah.
Is there going to be both the hero and the villain eventually for you? Because you are going to become beholden to that.
I mean, it's true. So you have Canon, the Cripple Hammer on what is that, Camera Conspiracies channel. You have the Canon Cripple Hammer. When they came out with the R5, you could tell Canon was taking advantage of their users with that kind of made-up overheating issue. And so now I feel like Sony's starting to do the same thing, where they're just like, we don't have to be innovative anymore because we're like drug dealers who have cornered the market. We can just, they're like cutting their cocaine. This is going to get demonetized. They're cutting their cocaine with baking soda.
We'll use cookies.
Yeah.
They're bakers,
Yes.
and they've got us all hooked on, the chocolate chip cookies they've built or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're starting to cut it. And so part of me is upset with Sony, and I feel like I am justifiably upset with them. But I also am like, okay, if Canon was in the same boat where they've got a corner on the market, if these other
They'd be doing the same thing.
If Lumix or Panasonic were in the same boat, like,
Right.
do I trust them to like not start?
No, because we've seen it in the past that they've played the same
Yeah.
shady stuff.
It's like,
right?
so Sony is being greedy in their business. I think a lot of other camera manufacturers are probably would do that and have done that in the past. So it's like, that's a little frustrating.
And again, we're only a nab away from us loving them, and some other system answers shows up. We don't know that because, again, we're seeing this pattern happen where they never give us the full meal we want,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But who knows, they might, because, again, they might feel the threats of a company like DJI. I mean, here are two
Yeah.
clear Sony guys
Yeah.
shooting on a DJI right now.
I do think you're going to see when the FX2 comes out and probably the FX6 2 comes out, that they're still going to be crazy. The price right now for the FX3 is $4,000.
Right.
And you compare that to the S1 II, which is around, I think, 3,200 or whatever, and it does the whole 6K open gate and all these things. It has more features, even though it does tend to overheat even with a fan. But there's no way that they can drop the price of the FX3 Mark II to something, even if they brought it to like $4,000 and they did 6K open gate or something. You're still comparing yourself to the S1 II. So
Yep.
it's still going to be crazy overpriced when they come out with the FX3 and the FX2, I think. So they're in kind of a tight spot. If I think, Lumix is doing a good job of putting the pressure on them, I think.
Lumix, and then again, just all the things that are going to start happening with this idea of red now becoming not red anymore,
Yeah.
right?
Nikon with.
Right.
I mean, the ZR is like, it's probably not the camera for me because I don't want to shoot RAW, and it's almost like a RAW only
Right.
camera, and the file sizes are ridiculous.
Right.
And I appreciate the innovation on the screen, and that it doesn't overheat, surprisingly,
Right.
not very quickly anyway. And so, but it's $2,200.
Yep.
So it's just bonkers. That one goes on this one over here.
Oh, oops.
So yeah. Well, anyways, I think thanks, Ron, for helping me think through.
Yeah, no, well,
I
thank
think
you.
I'm
Thank
leaning-
you, because it's got my brain kind of looking at like what the next camera system. So you guys know, I've just gotten like a new corporate, so I'm in a new corporate position where not only am I thinking of for myself, but I'm actually making the budget recommendations for my business, for a business I'm a part of, right? So like I actually have to be thinking about all this stuff myself, and so it is crazy to be looking at the landscape, thinking about all the things I'm shooting on the horizon,
Yeah.
and having to go back to like not even like a personal niche, like what does this business want to shoot, right?
Yeah.
And kind of going, okay, looking at this landscape, where am I going to go?
What are you going to do? Because I'm leaning toward keeping FX2 as B cam, getting rid of A7S3. I tell myself that, but I love that camera so much, I might just keep it as a.
I think it's going to be
or
either.
a D-cam. That's too many cameras.
I think it will be either an FX2 or FX3, with then renting or using an FX6 from time to time. Just because of knowing how the shooting team is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it is interesting. Definitely getting my hands on the FX6 again reminded me how much I love the FX6.
Yeah.
As like a centerpiece of the cinema line.
Yeah, as a cam, it is really nice. It's better than the FX9. The FX9 had no real benefits, and it's discontinued now, actually.
Right.
But it's said it was 6K, but like nobody could tell the difference. Like,
right.
And maybe it didn't even do open K. And to do RAW, not that I do RAW, but to do RAW, you have to have that big external thing.
Yep.
Anyway, FX9's a joke.
Well, and you're seeing it in the market now. There was like a couple stats of the recent film festivals and what movies were shot on what things, and the FX6 is
probably beating
in
the
FX9.
There. Yeah. FX9, that's a whole thing. So yeah, I think I probably am gonna get rid of the A7S3. So if
don't get if the customer not to leave you guys on a cliffhanger for our next video, but I don't think it's sold yet. But I think he's definitely got to like look at a couple of different more shooting scenarios and think in his head what the real benefit of the FX2 is going to be long term.
Yeah. It's the no overheating in long form content, and it's the better IBIS, even though I'm pretty sure they could put via firmware the better IBIS in the A7S3.
But that goes back to trusting that they will, right? And that's what you don't know.
Where they're not.
Because again, we're somewhat trying to guess the future of Sony.
Yeah.
Is Sony wanting to go these camera body systems, or are they trying to move us all toward this other form?
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
I don't know. Cool.
Well, good video.
Good chat.
So look at these snapdragons over here. We had them in a potted plant last year, and then they just decided to pop up all over. It's pretty cool. I like snapdragons. So
I like it.
If anyone out here is a gardening nerd like me, snapdragons, they just pop up anywhere after you put them in a pot, or they can at least. So cool. How low can you go? My back hurts. Look at my eye bags. I need to get better sleep and drink more water. There you go. This is my little epilogue now to that vlog. Didn't want to leave you guys on a cliffhanger. I decided to get rid of the FX2. Take that. It sucks. It doesn't suck, but the rolling shutter I don't love. I tried to use it as a webcam, right? Because I tried to do some testing. And with it charging via USB-C, the battery died very quickly. So it was like in 20 minutes, it was down like 15%. And I was like, maybe it's a bad battery. I switched batteries, and I switched from 4K 30 to HD 30, and waited for 40 minutes. And in 40 minutes, it was down another 30%. So I'm like, okay, well, now I can't use the battery grip to double my record times, right? And I can't, so I just have to use a dummy battery. And so at that point, if I'm using a dummy battery, I can just use my A7S III as a webcam with a capture card, with a dummy battery, and it's not going to overheat for long, something like a long podcast or something. So the FX2, if I want something with a fan, honestly, I'm just going to buy an FX3. The FX2, I do hate the rolling shutter. It has ruined some of my shots, and it's limiting, and it's just not worth the money. And when I'm mad at Sony, I'm not going to spend, I think, $2,900 for a new one. I'm not going to spend $2,900 for a camera that is where I have to find workarounds and where it's not keeping up with the competition. So
Anyways, let me know how you feel about that in the comments, because I'm sure I'll hear about it. But the A7S III is still an awesome camera, and it's going to do everything I need it to do. If it starts overheating, if I'm like recording for 3 hours, 3.5 hours for a podcast, I don't really want to do podcasts that long. But if I ever do, um, if it starts overheating even with a dummy battery, then maybe I'll just get an FX3. So that'll be my next test. If I ever do a 3.5 hour long podcast and my A7S III overheats even with a dummy battery, then I'll get an FX3. But yeah, the FX2, it's not solving any of my problems. Also with reviewing the footage there at the end, the IBIS on the A7S III looked really good still. Like, it's good enough for me. It's got still kind of a handheld look, which is what I think I would want. If I want something more gimbal-like, I don't think the FX2 gave me gimbal-like stabilization yet. So the A7S III is still good enough for handheld footage. And the FX6 was surprising, where on the shoulder, it's a heavy rig, so take that into account. But it looked good going back and forth with kind of the handheld look. It did look more like action, high energy type of thing. So maybe you want to use that with those YouTube boxing videos where like we were talking about, where you're panning back and forth really quickly and it's really high energy. Whatever. But you can get that with the A7S III too. So, but anyway, and all that to say, the FX6 isn't bad on the shoulder for high energy stuff either. So yeah, I think A7S III, FX6, A7R5, and yeah, we'll get rid of the FX2. Sorry, but thanks for watching. We'll see if anybody stayed till the end. If you did, also let me know in the comments. So yeah, thanks for watching. Have a good day.